me the inside of this.
Yeah, it's like really, really loose. The magnets are not very good.
It's held on by like straight fade.
Welcome to this episode of Our Cup, where I am joined by the incredible...
Hi, my name is Eva Ding. It never gets easier, trying to say what you do. In general, I'd like to say that I'm a performer. If there's ever a spotlight, you'll find me trying to get under it. Training-wise, I'm classically trained as a flutist, but I also dabble in acting, and I'd like to, in the future, produce my own concert series and be able to say that I've curated this kind of musical experience.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So today, we'll be drinking coffee from Partners Coffee Roasters out in Brooklyn.
You spilled the beans.
Spilled the beans out in Brooklyn.
I got to use it. I've been waiting so long.
And so we brewed it via chemex with a 30 grams of coffee to 500 grams of water, and we can expect notes of watermelon, lime, and mango.
Which is unusual, which I would never have picked up as coffee notes, because when I think of coffee, I think of like chocolate and vanilla. It was like creamy stuff. Where like, does the fruitiness make it more sweeter? It
adds a little bit. I would call it more of a complexity to the cup.
Okay.
Because it's like, if you ever had like diner coffee or like kind of typical coffee, like pot coffee, it'll be very kind of one-dimensional in the sense that it's rather like on some scale of like bitter to like
just
watered
gasoline
down.
oil at that point. It's just sludge that you need to make through the day.
Right.
That's what.
So like hand brewing it like with the chemex and with from a specialty coffee roaster who have that mystic process. I have no idea how they actually add these notes in there, but they do.
Yeah.
Or so they say.
They like infuse. They put a watermelon on top of the coffee beans
as far as we know. Yes.
That's the secret.
And then we brew it, and then here, so it's like it's for Columbian coffee, so you'll still get that chocolatiness and that kind of full-bodiedness that you typically associate with coffee. Okay. But there will actually be like just a little bit, just something different, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right.
So tell us about you. Tell us about music, art, and your passions, your life story, if you will.
yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna go straight into it. Yeah. Let's go on a journey. No. So I was born in Shanghai, China. That's where my parents are from. And then when I was about 5 or 6, we moved to New Zealand, Auckland, and that's where the accent is from. And that's where, when people ask me, especially in America and New York, they ask me, where I'm from, and I say New Zealand. I'm truly, bred Kiwi girl. And I started the piano when I was like 3 or so.
So basically your hands were the size of like one key.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like I came out the womb playing the piano. No, I didn't. Because back in kindergarten or preschool or whatever it is that 3-year-olds go to, I would have friends that would be led off into these mysterious rooms for 30 minutes at a time, and they would come back all like gossiping about what they learned that day and which notes they learned and what pieces they learned. And I was like, I want in on this. I want to be a part of this inner circle. So I begged my parents to let me learn the piano, and they were like, why? I think for a long time they didn't kind of get why, and they took me to the teacher, and the teacher literally was like, your child's hands are way too small, like they're not gonna be able to manipulate the keys in any way. But I just begged, and they were like, and I think they were also thinking, like, if you learn the piano, we have to buy a piano. And pianos aren't cheap to have in the house.
Right.
So
space, money,
exactly,
all that.
and it's the commitment and and so I get it. As an adult now, I get it.
right.
Money ain't easy to come by.
Especially in New York, when everything costs like 10 times more than anywhere.
Exactly. Like, I would like get myself like a tiny little like synth keyboard, which probably isn't cheap either.
Right.
Like the good ones.
Help us make rent. Like this video, please.
Yes. Get us that called what? Monetization.
Right.
Yes, that curve.
Right.
Yes.
Analytics, engagement,
engage with this
Yeah,
video.
right.
Dear God, please.
So, click the like button. So,
done.
continue.
Yes.
Done.
Yeah, done. Yeah, that's the spiel.
Hashtag influence.
Yeah, this outcome. Like, hashtag that shit, post it around. Yeah. But anyway, so I learned it. They caved, as they do with their only child, and I learned it, and for a long time it went really well. And then I moved to New Zealand when I was about 5 or 6, and in intermediate, which is middle school, American middle school, I kind of discovered orchestras and chamber ensembles and stuff like that. And as a piano player, it's really hard to get into that kind of stuff. And so I was like, what other instrument can I learn that? Because I wanted to be a part of this collaborative effort to make music, or as close to music as
right, as one can get,
10-year-olds could possibly get to. And so I went to this kind of Saturday matinee concert, and it wouldn't have been professional by any means. It would have been like university students or high schoolers at that point. And I'm sitting in the audience and just watching the musicians, and for the next piece, along glides onto stage this beautiful girl in this gorgeous, elegant gown, and she's holding this long, shiny tube, and I'm like, I want to be her. Get me one of those.
Right.
And I begged my mother, and she's like, you already have the piano. What are you gonna commit to that and now this new shiny instrument? So I was like, yeah, that's the thing I'm meant to be doing. And so that was the flute, and kind of the rest is history, because I learned it and loved it.
Wow.
And kind of and I was really thankful that I had my piano training, especially in reading clefs, reading music.
Right.
So that I didn't have to learn all
So you're already
that
walking
again.
in knowing
a
basics
lot of the basic theory stuff. And so I could solely focus on learning the mechanics of the instrument without also having to be like, what is that like a semi-quaver A or a 16th note semi-quaver?
Wow, that's right. That
yeah,
little different...
16th note A or whatever it is. So that was, I think, a really huge advantage.
Absolutely.
And then it kind of, at one point, especially in high school, I remember the scales tipping, if that makes sense, in terms of success, not success necessarily, but kind of how well or how advanced I was getting in the instruments. Because for the longest time it was piano, then along came flute, and then they were kind of, going up at around the same. And then at one point, the flute kind of just took the lead, exactly. Right. And then it just became a matter of especially for university decisions, it was what am I good at?
Right.
Wasn't really good at much else. Well, no, was really decently okay at many things. Kind of jack of or Jill of all trades at that point. Right. But then was music. Music, the flute was where I was meant to go. And in fact, I went into... So I did my undergrad at the University of Auckland in New Zealand. And I went into it as a pre-med music double major.
Wow.
Because someone's a masochist and didn't know what I was doing with my life. Because I was I still... It is that kind of Asian thing of
there's an
you need to make money.
Right.
And you need to put it... And it came from a place of love and concern and care.
Absolutely.
Of you need to be able to put a roof over your head. And
food on the table, exactly.
Food on the table, food in your own stomach. Right. And how can we as parents kind of facilitate and help lead you in the way that's going to be most fruitful. And they're realistic, and I'm realistic as an artist, as an entertainer.
Absolutely.
It's not an easy path. And even the successful ones, monetary gain is not something I think any of us look for when we go into this
It's not something you really can look for either, because it's the people who are making the mega dollars are very much the outliers of the industry.
They're the 0.01%.
And it's it's hard.
And they're making the mega dollars. Right. Which is the disparity is huge, whereas I think in a lot of other business, say for example, or accounting or whatever, I feel there's a little bit
more of a middle ground. Well, That was a little awkward.
But
we're back. The camera overheated just a little bit.
Technical malfunctions.
We have no idea where we left off. So I feel like that is the perfect segue to now taste
coffee.
Yeah, it'll be a perfect drinking temperature.
Cheers, I guess. Can you cheers your coffee?
Yes, of course. And then so we're looking for watermelon, mango, and lime.
I smell something. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not coffee that I would usually drink, but I can definitely. It's really fruit. It's really
you see
fruity.
You see the fruitiness I'm like kind of talking about. So basically, what you
there are no, as you were saying. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, of course.
As you were saying, it's so different from like drinking like that pour of a shit straight out of like the container, like without milk.
So the way you can think about it, the way you can think of it is it's like, think of my hand as like your taste bud map, or I guess your tongue. It starts like bitter in the back and then sour, sweet, and salty. So if you can kind of feel the lime on the sides.
Yeah.
Feel like the watermelon in the body, and then like that mango is like a sweetness. That's
so true.
So it's like, think of like, so it's like when you sip, you can like slurp it. Basically the idea is just to like coat your palate with the coffee.
That's insane. Yeah. There are actual layers in the coffee. It's not just like bean water.
I mean, at the end of the day,
it's a different kind of bean water.
That's what coffee is. Like, I've never thought of it like that.
Bean water, yeah.
Like bean water.
Bean water.
I like it.
Yeah, that's how I describe. And that's the thing, that's how I like describe coffee that doesn't have milk in it, unfortunately. But this I could drink without milk. It's just different.
Right, because it's like...
It's not creamy.
But you could add milk if you like. You know, you could always add things. I would recommend finding a coffee that would fit having milk with it, because like milk and lime and mango, probably not necessarily a taste combination that is, we'll call, I don't want to say normal, because that's, a little aggressive.
Yeah, sure,
We'll just call it not as compatible.
Sure, that's a real thing. Yeah, true.
But you could pair coffee with...
This is really delicious, thank you.
Of course. Yeah. Glad you enjoy. And it's at that prime drinking temperature where it's not like burning your tongue.
And then you won't be able to taste. That's the technique with the diesel oil coffee.
Diesel oil.
Is that you burn your tongue so that you don't have to taste what it tastes like as it goes in.
Yeah, all these people are like, I want my coffee like as hot as possible. Like, is there anything hotter than boiling?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. And they're like, I want that.
I want that.
I want
exactly.
that.
Times it by 10 to me. Because they don't want to taste their coffee.
Right, absolutely.
They just need the caffeine.
So, tell us...
So I don't know where we left off, but I think I was talking about...
Talk about the flute. Talking
university,
so, making the your life decision at the right age of 17 or 18, 16.
Also, like total like thing that is like I think a worldwide phenomenon is that you have to choose your subject and kind of go for it. And I think in America at least there's less of that because there's liberal arts and you don't have to what's it like. What's English today? I just took the GREs yesterday. I am all out of words.
The brain is just like
the brain
running
is not
on
England
fumes.
today. Anyway, is thingy your major? Thingy. Right. Declare. You don't have to declare your major. Is that right? Or is it until like your third or fourth year?
Yeah, it depends. I think it depends on school because some schools certainly want you to know what you're doing. When you walk in, some places, like a conservatory. It's like you're not going to go to Eastman School of Music, Manhattan School of Music, being like, am I going to major in music? I don't know. I mean, but at the same time, that is fair because I've had a lot of colleagues like go think that's what they want and then kind of change paths. Yeah, so self-discovery is huge. But at the same time, a lot of places allow you to kind of figure out what you want to do. A year or 2 or 3 into your studies. Yeah. So New Zealand doesn't have that. You go straight in and you declare your major or whatever it is. And so I did pre-med and music and flute because it wasn't thinking. Right. And honestly, like the funniest part was that the pre-med wasn't as hard as the music was. Wow. Because if you think about in terms of like carving out time to study, like if you did
a science degree and an arts degree as a double major, you can spend an hour on bio and then an hour on, I don't know, art history or something like that, and you would study and you could interstudy those things. You can't do that with music practice. You can't just be like, oh, just intermittently practice and then, you know, carve out time for other study and take it out of the practice. Like, when you're in it, and then you can't distract yourself or disturb yourself with something else. And so I was like, actually, at the end of the day, like, what is it that I enjoy doing more? And it was for sure music, because, and you know, bringing it full circle, I am just an absolute spotlight hog. So I was like, well, I can't do that with men, can I?
right. It's like I could be stuck in a lab, or I could be on stage. Look at me.
This guy gets it. He gets it. So exactly. So that was the basis. No, it wasn't the basis of the decision, but I mean, it was just like, I can't imagine doing anything else with my life, especially at the age that I was. And so I did the music thing. I did flute, did my undergrad. In my third year, I did a 6-month exchange at UCLA, because I knew I wanted to come to America, because this is where, like, the industry is booming, and as I mentioned before, I also do acting, and so I was like, I know that that's where, you know, all the big shit is happening.
Right.
And I was like, I'm gonna go to UCLA, I'm gonna live in LA, I'm gonna just see if I like it, see the culture, see the vibes, and worst comes to worst, I hate it, and I know. Right. But it was not that. I loved it. I fell in love with America. I loved the vibes. LA was phenomenal. UCLA was... I joined a sorority. Wow. I, landed in LA and was like, what are the most American things I can do on my bucket list? Let me tick them off. Joined a sorority. Shout out to Delta Delta Delta. Try Delta. So cringe.
Wait, what?
Or you just did the little one.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there we go.
Triangles. But, I mean, it is kind of everything you see portrayed on the big screen and more. But also there's this underlying absolute sisterhood.
Gotcha.
That, like, I was so appreciative of coming into a new school and a new country at that. And so there were these girls that just, they just, like, with no thought, just, like...
Just took you in, you know?
Yes! No, just, like, with open arms, just, like, willingly just took me in, like, no questions asked kind of thing. Not no thought. Like, no questions asked. And it was just really, nice to have that support network there.
Right, absolutely.
And at the end of my exchange, I went around all of America and I emailed flute teachers and I was like, hi, I barely know how to hold my flute upright, but like, here I am. Can I have lessons with you? And they were all so nice and so sweet and so welcoming, and they were like, yeah, like, come to my studio, come into my home, or like, I'm doing a summer festival, but like, please come and like listen to the masterclasses or whatever. And so I traveled around America. I went to New York and Boston and Santa Barbara and stuff like that. And at each one of those places, because of Tri Delta, I had people that...
Oh, wow. That's important.
Yeah, exactly. That accommodated me, showed me around the city if they had time.
Huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Especially as a broadcast music student.
Well, just as a college student.
As a broadcast college student.
Yeah.
Like, it's so nice. And, like, I just had, like, the sweetest tour guides that knew the city and, like, were just, like, friends from the get-go. And that was so sweet. And also just going around and being able to see America in all its different cities. Yeah. Like, every city might as well have been a different country. Right. It's insane. The culture and the traditions are so different. And, yeah, so I had the best time. And that was kind of, like, what really, like, put it into concrete. Like,
that's huge.
That I was like, I would like to come back for my master's study.
Yeah, which obviously all this flute lessons and traveling paid off because you just graduated from the Manhattan School of Music.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh my god, I don't even...
That's huge.
Thanks. Yet to be seen, I guess. Like,
Right.
if it is a thing to be congratulated in.
No, absolutely. You survived 2, I'm guessing, very aggressive years.
Grueling.
Yeah.
We're talking... Like, I thought I was okay going in. You know, like...
Right.
I played good flute. I got into a
conservatory
in New York City. And... boy, oh boy. Like, and like, to top that off, my studio was with the one and only Robert Langevin, which... Guys, you need to just, like, Google search this man. Or if you could just edit these side-by-sides.
Alright, I'll put a link.
Please do, because someone said this to me, and now I can't unsee it, and I need you all to just not unsee it with me. He's the Lorax.
She studied with the Lorax.
I studied with the Lorax. Have you, like, I don't know if you ever, do you go see the film sometimes?
Yeah.
Do you notice the flute section?
No. I kind of listen to the loud guys with the metal instruments in the back.
Yeah,
I'm a trumpet player, so it's like...
There is no shame in that. I would too if I didn't, study the flute. But he's the principal flute of the New York Philharmonic. Mm-hmm. He's the one with the big white mustache.
Okay.
And he looks like the Lorax. Him and the Lorax are one and the same.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. So someone said that, and I was like, oh my god, I'm never going to have a lesson with him without thinking that. But no, like, reality check came quite quickly because I was studying in his studio, and he also teaches the orchestral program, the OP students at MSM. So MSM has this really special program it's very streamlined, and it's for students that for sure know they want to go into orchestra in their lives. And it's very rigorous, and it's very, the cream of the crop really go for that program. And he also teaches the flutists for that. Okay. And I wasn't part of that program. I was in his studio, if that makes sense, for fun.
Sure, yeah.
But we all have studio class together. Mm-hmm. A typical day if it was like a day of lessons with Robert, would be, say, 45 to 60-minute lesson, where we would just do scales and etudes. Wow. With the metronome on. Okay. Subdivided.
Okay, wow.
So, like, let that just, like, sink in.
Right.
And, like, bless this man, he does this for all his students. So he sits there and listens to all his students, and he's so patient, because he knows that, like, you can't teach stage presence. You can't teach that kind of performance factor, but you can teach and you can train the bejesus out of a scale, and I struggled.
And that just applies to everything else that you do.
Because it gives you the tools to become a better player. It really does. And I struggled with that kind of mindset for both 2 years of my studies, because I was like, and it was really difficult, and you can't X factor your way out of a scale. Right. Is what I keep telling everyone that asks. I was like, there's no hiding behind a scale that you can't do. Right. And then he'll just make you do it again and again.
It's the closest thing to an objective measure in music.
Absolutely. And it sucks, but it is, as you get better and better. Like, if you don't have that, if you don't have your foundation, how are you supposed to build beautiful, ornate things on top of it?
Absolutely.
And it was a really hard pill to swallow, but it was exactly what I needed, and his type of training was exactly what I needed.
Absolutely.
And then, so after the 60-minute, Armageddon of scales, it would be a 3-hour-long studio class. Wow. Where the 4 of us would just play pieces for each other. And I don't know, the 3 other students in his studio, especially in my first year, they just always came with, recital-ready 4-movement sonata and concerti, just, with a pianist. And I would be like, with what time? I can barely fit in my scales into my day. Right. And that's the thing with scales. They're not fun to practice either. There's no musicality that you can bring into your scales. Right. And so I would just be, bogged down with scales, and I wouldn't have, the kind of will to practice pieces all day on top of that. And so I was just it was inspiring and very intimidating at the same time. And I was just like, oh my god, I need to get on this. And it's also, in the sense, it's like, well, if they can do it, surely I can do it too. And my teacher has enough belief in me that he thinks that I can do it too. And so all those things kind of made me just become a better musician.
Absolutely.
And become a better person and more organized with my time and more be able to prioritize. I don't know if this is something that I've really, really learned, is the kind of prioritization technique of what's urgent and what's important.
Right.
And like, important is important for you, for your soul, for your general well-being, for the furtherment of your music making or your artistic making. But what's urgent is something that just like needs to be done.
Right.
And so scales are always important, and you need to just do scales. And like, if you've got a recital and it's obviously urgent and it's coming up, you should focus on that too. You know, like it's just kind of making sure where your priorities are and like being able to like
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that was a huge learning curve.
Life lessons.
Yeah. And I just like am so much better for it as both as a musician, as a person. And I survived out the other end. Just graduated in May. So
what's next?
Right.
Like, what are the goals moving forward?
So, like, immediately after graduation, I was like, oh, like, like, come back. Someone give me a schedule. Like, someone tell me what to do. Because it is that intimidating yet, like, exhilarating time transition between studenthood and adulthood where you're like, okay, like, it's on me now. Please, dear God, someone give me, like, something to do. So for me, I really had to sit down and be like, what do I want to do with my music? What do I want to do with my flute? And I kind of realized that I didn't want to go that tried and true traditional path of orchestral playing or, like, doing auditions until my mind goes blank. You know, I'm all about making classical music accessible and relatable and relevant to people like our generation or people that wouldn't elect to go to a classical music concert, even if they're really interested in exploring it. But, you know, there's that kind of intimidation factor. There's that kind of audience performer barrier that so many people... Because stepping into, like, David Geffen or Lincoln Center is a kind of intimidating experience.
Right, especially for somebody who doesn't know, not familiar with the art form.
Exactly. And there's all this etiquette, and there's this where to sit, when to clap, heck, even, like, what to wear.
Right.
And I'm like, that just blows my mind that we have had to make it such an esoteric niche thing where, like, I think everyone deserves to be touched by classical music.
Absolutely, and that's the goal.
Exactly. It's such a universal language. Like, the strains of the New World Symphony, or the, you know, something out of a Shostakovich concerto. Like, there's music that says stuff that just words and language cannot. And I'm like, it's such a shame that so many people kind of aren't being exposed to that and don't give it a second thought because they're like, oh, it's boring, or like, you know, because they don't understand it.
Yeah, because it's harder for it because with most classical music there isn't any, like, there's no lyrics other than it being song. But even then in classical opera,
and they're long.
Yeah, and it's long. It's kind of hard to digest it all, especially in a time of fast-paced media.
Yes, that's so true.
Which is like a whole nother kind of conversation in itself.
That's a whole nother.
But it's like, it's a very noble quest for you to try and, like, bridge that audience performer gap, and wish you, like, the absolute best of luck with that.
So much.
And it's
Thank you. And I would love to elaborate more on it.
And we will.
At some
part 2.
Part 2. Are you ready? They're like, we're so sick of her. Get her off the channel. So yeah, I would love to, like, elaborate more and just sit down again with you over this very delicious coffee.
You catch us at David Geffen next time.
We'll
bring it to Lincoln City.
Yes, we should do that. A concept. Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today over coffee.
Thank you for having me.
So,
it's been a pleasure.
Be sure to check out Eva's socials, which I will put in the description. You know, #influencer.
#influencer moment.
So, any likes, subscriptions on the video really, really do help. And again, just thank you so much for spending your time with us right now. And until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Outro. Yeah. You need, like, a quirky little intro theme.